Hello everyone, I'm Tegen Haile, Assistant Professor of Global Business in the University of Swan. This is our course Introduction to E-Trade, and this is our 7th chapter entitled Extensible Markup Language Tutorial, or XML tutorial in our EDI Basics. In our previous chapter, chapter 6, we have discussed about the 3 models of implementing EDI solutions into our company. And the first one is do-it-yourself model, and the second one is a B2B managed service model, and the third one is a hybrid or a combination of both do-it-yourself and a B2B managed service model. And in our chapter 6, we have mentioned that in do-it-yourself model, which is an in-house development, you should have your own IT personnel or IT department who are responsible to take care of the implementation of EDI in your company. And in a B2B managed service model, it means you are outsourcing your EDI implementation to a third party. So, and this, talking about these models, we have discussed about factors that a company should consider while choosing a do-it-yourself model or a B2B managed service model, right? So, for example, when you do it yourself, you have to make sure that you have the necessary IT personnel who are skilled in EDI and in secure internet connection. And in B2B managed services, you are outsourcing the implementation to a third party. You should follow up on the implementations and the requirements that you have already listed, the business and the user requirements. And the combination, the hybrid one, is you partly do it yourself and partly outsource some of the implementation to a third party. So this is our 7th chapter, which is about XML tutorial. In our chapter 8 and 9, we will also have EDI fact tutorial and ANSI tutorials. So let's see the contents of this chapter. So this topic will cover the development of XML, the basic concepts to structure, create, and read XML code, the relationship of XML to other markup languages and applications. So I'll talk about what is a markup language, what is a programming language, and what is a scripting language. So these 3 languages are different. So this tutorial provides information about the basic of HTML concepts, XML concepts. So in our first chapter, we have tried to mention that XML is not an EDI standard, right? XML is a markup language, a flexible markup language that helps us to develop standards including ANSI and EDI fact. So by itself, XML is not an EDI standard, rather it is a markup language, a flexible markup language that helps us to develop standards including the ANSI and EDI fact standards. So this tutorial is not actually to expect you to be a programmer in markup language, but to just make you familiar with some basics of XML, because as we discuss about EDI, then you should know what this XML is and what it does and how it is structured. So this tutorial should be used as a prerequisite to understanding what XML is and how XML is developing to meet the needs of providing electronic commerce solutions, right? So the goal of this tutorial is, after completing this tutorial, you should be able to discuss what is XML, how and why XML was developed, what is the basic structure of an XML document, how XML documents are read, what are the components of an XML application, and lastly, how XML may be used in providing electronic commerce solutions. So At this point, I would like to discuss the difference between programming language, markup language, and scripting language. So we have these different types of languages. We have a programming language like C++, Java, or C#. Then we have markup language like XML and HTML. And we also have scripting language, right? So scripting language like JavaScript or Visual Basic Script, right? So programming languages are languages that help you transform a data, right? And markup languages are languages that help you in creating a presentation or how a data should be presented. And scripting languages are languages that are mediating programs to generate data, right? So at this point, I will not go into detail how programming languages work, or how markup languages or how scripting languages work, but you should know that these three languages are different. Programming languages are basically concerned about transforming data, and markup languages are basically concerned about the presentation of the data. Like you can make the content italic or bold within the element, right? Then scripting languages are languages that mediate programs to generate data. Like scripting languages, we have JavaScript, we have Visual Basic Script, HTML and XML are markup languages, and C++, C#, they are called programming languages, right? So we are here talking about XML, which is a markup language, which is not a programming language. So before I go for XML, let me just introduce you some points about HTML, because it's a kind of evolution from HTML to XML, right? So if you see the history or the generation of XML or HTML, then first there was HTML, right? Then we have HTML2, we have 3, we have 4, right? Then we have XHTML, then we have XML, right? So this is the history. So this was like in 1990s. Then it came to the point where we mostly use XML, and also a recent version of HTML called HTML5, right? So HTML is a standard markup language for creating web pages, and it stands for hypertext markup language, which is used to view hypertext documents. And HTML describes the structure of web page using a markup. And HTML elements are building blocks of HTML page. We will talk about what are elements, what are tags, and what are attributes in XML too. Then HTML elements are represented by tags. We also have tags in XML. So tags are like this. Like for example, we have paragraph, then we write some contents, then we close our tag like this. So this is called the opening tag, and this is called the closing tag, right? So in HTML and also in XML we use tags. The difference is in HTML we use predefined tags, which are about 89 tags which are predefined, but in XML we can define our own tags. So that is the one of the major difference between HTML and XML. And the other thing is HTML tags label pieces of content such as heading, paragraph, tables, and so on. And browsers do not display HTML tags. So when you view this content, for example, I have this tag, paragraph, or I might have a heading like heading 1, and I might write HTML and closing, right? So when your browser displays this content or this HTML, then it doesn't display this one, it will rather display this content with the attribute here. Okay, so this means this HTML content is going to be heading 1, and it will be displayed as heading 1, where you will not see this text on the browsers, right? So browsers do not display HTML tags, but they use them to render the content on the page, the content here like the HTML, right? So our advice, if for those of you who are not familiar with HTML, I will advise you to maybe go to this website. This is www.w3schools.com, where you can find a tutorial about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, SQL, PHP, including XML. So for those of you who are not familiar with HTML, you can come to this web page and click on HTML and see some introduction and basics of HTML in this website. You can also try it yourself here. For example, on this website, this is a typical HTML code where we have a declaration here as HTML. This is going to be HTML code, and this is the other that tells this code included here is an HTML code. Then we have a head where you can include the title of the web page, which is the one that is displayed here at the top, right, on this here. And in the body part, you can include contents that you want your browser to display it here, right? And you have to close your body and your HTML code. Then the good part about this website is you can try the codes by yourself by clicking here. Try it yourself. Then you can see that there is this page will display where you can modify some contents. For example, this is a header, right? So I can just modify something, then click run and see the change on the right side of the page, right? So for example, if I want to add a heading to, I can just copy this, paste this here, and I can just change this heading 1 to 2, and here I can change this to 2. I can run this, I can see heading 2 here displayed, right? So this is just to notify you that you can come to this website and you can learn about HTML on this website, just to get easily familiar with HTML, I mean XML tutorial. So let's get started with what is XML, right? So XML is extensible markup language, which is a way to apply structure to a web page. So XML provides a standard open format and mechanism for structuring a document so that it can be exchanged and manipulated. So this is an example how an XML code looks like, right? So when we start writing XML code, we always start with a declaration. So this is a declaration that this code is an XML code, right? Just like we start our HTML code like this: document type HTML. Okay, so this is how we declare HTML codes, right? At the beginning of the HTML code, we write this one, which tells the browser that this is an HTML code. So the same way, when we write XML codes, we start with the declaration, which is opening tag and question mark, XML version is equal to 1.0, then question mark. So this is how you declare that this content is an XML code of version 1.0, right? So That's the same way in HTML. Here, if you see, we declare HTML code like this, which tells that this is an HTML code, right? So this is how it looks like. Then XML complements your HTML knowledge by allowing you to structure your data by markup, the text and data to define the data content. So like HTML, XML uses tags, right? We use tags in HTML, same way we use tags in XML to mark up data contents. But unlike HTML, in XML you can define your own tags, right? That is the advantage of using XML. So you are not limited with the 89 predefined tags like in HTML, right? So in HTML we have about 89 tags. Then we can only use these tags which are predefined in HTML, right? But in XML we can define our own tags. For example, if you have noticed here, this is an HTML code. So this one is basket. So in this basket we have oranges, apples, peaches, grapes, and we close this. Okay, so this is a kind of, in a basket we have different fruits. Then these fruits are orange, and we have apples, we have peaches, and we have grapes. So this is very familiar with you, right? Because it's a tag that is defined by yourself. It's not a predefined tag. Okay, so the custom tags makes your data easier to organize and search. Okay, because it is you that defined the tag, so it will be easy for you to search for. For example, if you want to search where you have the tags for fruits types, then it's easy to search through your XML code. So XML will not change the way your browser looks or your web page look, but it will change the way documents are read and the way documents are filed and filled and stored. So again, let's talk about the design goals of XML. What are the design goals? So the design goals for XML were proposed by the World Wide Web Consortium and published in 1998. So WWWC, or that is W3C, or World Wide Web Consortium, this is a group which define standards and rules for the internet also, right? So you know that nobody owns the internet, but there are groups who define standards and rules for the internet. So these groups are called the World Wide Web Consortium, right? So a synopsis of this design goals by World Wide Web Consortium are: XML shall be straightforwardly usable over the internet. So that is one goal. The other is XML shall support a wide variety of applications. That means XML should be interoperable and portable, right? And XML shall be compatible with SGML. So this is a standard general markup language which was even before HTML. So there was SGML, and there was HTML, and there was XML, right? So the other design goal is XML shall be easy to write programs which process XML documents, and the number of optional features in XML is to be kept to the absolute minimum, or ideally 0. And we also have other design goals like XML documents should be human legible and reasonably clear. XML design should be prepared quickly. The design of XML shall be formal and concise. The XML documents should be easy to create, and the terseness in XML markup is of minimal importance. So these are the design goals that are set by the World Wide Web Consortium. And one thing I have to mention here is, now it is becoming very popular that most of the standards that we use in EDI are created using XML, right? So in proposing the design goals, the World Wide Web Consortium has endeavored to combine the sophistication of SGML with the easy to use of HTML, right? So XML has both these qualities of sophistication of SGML, standard general markup language, and the ease of use of HTML, right? So HTML offers a standard open format for communities to develop structured mechanisms for making text and data to facilitate the exchange and manipulation of documents among the community members. And the focus of XML here is to carry the power of SGML, as we have said, the sophistication of SGML, and to carry the easy of use of HTML, right? So XML combines the best qualities of SGML and HTML, right? So how about XML today? So before this, there is a history about XML that I just skipped because I don't think that is very important for our tutorial. But as I have already mentioned, the evolution is we have HTML first in the 1990s, then we have HTML2, HTML3, HTML4, and we have XHTML, then we have XML, then we have HTML5, which also incorporates the basic functionalities of XML, right? So at present, XML is still evolving, and here are some key points to remember. So the primary functional purpose of XML is to transfer structured text and data among systems in multiple organizations. So the other important thing you have to know is XML is interoperable and portable, okay, better than HTML and SGML. So XML, unlike HTML, does not have a fixed format, right? Because in XML we can define our own tags. So there are no predefined tags in XML, right? But in HTML we have predefined tags. Predefined tags for creating paragraphs, predefined tags for creating headings, predefined tags to define everything, right? We have about 89 tags used in HTML. But in XML, we can define our own tags and we can use our own tags, right? But to use our own tags, we have to define them first, that we will discuss later. So there are no predefined tags in XML. XML tags define the meta information, that is information about information, and are distributed throughout the document. And like HTML, XML uses tags, and tags are always enclosed within angled brackets like this. As I have said, you open a tag like this and you close a tag like this, okay? So this slash forward slash shows that we are closing a tag. And the other important thing is in XML you have to close the tags that you have opened, right? That's very important. So coming to the basics, it's important to remember that like HTML, XML is a markup language, right? So the term markup is used to identify that anything put within a document which is either adds or provides a special meaning, like the italic text. As I have said, markup languages, they focus, or they are used to create presentation, right? They focus on presentation of the content. Markup language is a set of rules, and it declares what constitutes markup in a document and defines exactly what the markup means. It also provides a description of document layout and the logical structure. So we actually have three types of markup. We have a stylistic markup, we have structural markup, and we have semantic markups. So XML is basically focused on structural markup, okay? But for example, if you take HTML, it focuses more on stylistic markup, okay? How a document is presented. So the HTML tags like italic or bold or underline will help you present your content according to that. Like italic, it will make your content italic. Bold, it will make it bold. Underline, it will make it underline. Then we call this type of markup a stylistic markup, right? And the second one is structural markup. This is how the document is to be structured. So the HTML tags like paragraph for paragraph, P for paragraph, span for creating ad hoc styles in your document, and div for grouping structures align in the same way. So the third one is semantic, that tells about the content of the data. HTML tags like title for page title and head for page header information, and script to indicate JavaScript in a page. So these kinds of markup are called semantic markup. So as I have mentioned, in XML, the only type of markup that we're concerned about is the structural markup. That is about a document's structure. So when creating an XML document, you must begin with XML declaration statement, right? Just like we declare our HTML. As I've said, when we start writing HTML code, we have to precede our code with this, like document type HTML, okay? So this is to tell our browser that this code is an HTML code, right? So just like, for example, in C++, we declare our variables before we use them, right? So I can say int a, then I can assign a is equal to 10, things like this. So before using variables, we have to define the data type of our variables, and we have to introduce our variables to our compiler, right? So that when the compiler come across this variable, it will be familiar, and the compiler knows that this is a variable which has a data type of integer, right? So one thing, the other thing is, in programming language we use compilers that compile our code, right? And we have to introduce our variables, right? And we have to include some streams, input or output streams, so that our compiler is familiar with what we're doing, right? So just like that, we have to introduce our HTML code or XML code before we write them, right? So this is the declaration for XML. Okay, this statement alerts the browser to or other processing tools that this document contains XML tags. Okay, and the same thing when we declare our HTML. So this tells the browser that this document contains HTML tags, right? So this is the other important topic in this chapter, in chapter 7, right, about XML.
Howdy, my name is Sandy. Welcome to my time travel store, where we sell all kinds of goodies from different eras. Hey look, my old friend Grant is here.
Sandy, me sell mammoth milk. Want sell online?
Sure, let me help you. Okay, here we go. The best tool for creating a website is HTML, or Hypertext Markup Language. HTML describes all the headings, paragraphs, or images that make up the website. Let's create your first web page with a text editor or notepad after you finish hitting that rock with another rock, Grunt.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to create a tag.
What do?
Doc type refers to the type of document. In this case, it basically lets the web browser know that this page is written in HTML. Now, let's type in the HTML tag. The open angle bracket HTML close angle bracket tag tells the browser that this is an HTML document. Most tags have an opening and a closing part. Next, we come to the head tag and the body tag. The head tag is the area where the important stuff is processed first, like CSS and JavaScript. The body tags are the ones that contain the website content. We will add some contents here later. Now, Grunt, we should give this web page a title by using a title tag.
Me one call Ooga Booga Mammoth Milk.
Sure, so let's type in the title here. Great, now our web page has a title. Let's add in some contents now.
Me excited.
So let's add a header in between the body tag. H1 simply means header. There are different types of headers. Let's try them out later. Then let's add some text in the header. Let's add fresh mammoth milk. At this point, we should save the file as index.html. This is usually the first page of a website. Preview your file with your web browser. Drag and drop it into the browser area and you should see it pop up. Looking good! Now, what would happen if we change the H1 tag to H2 tag? Hey, seems like Grunt is very tired as he time traveled here from the Stone Age. Let's take a photo of him sleeping. Well, I think we will continue the lesson next time. Anyway, you should give it a try yourself. See ya!